Tonight, we'll be talking about, first, our virtual think tanks. You can learn more about these at that URL right there, theeducatorcollaborative.com/think tanks. And think tanks are our year-long study groups. So we'll actually, this evening, take you through what one of those sessions might feel like, so you can get to know a little bit more about how that goes. We also will talk a bit about our study series. So this is brand new for us this year. Anyone who's a member of a think tank automatically is a member of the study series, or you can join the study series by itself. So you can have that just as a separate aside. And the study series is once or twice a month. We have just a 90-minute, quick, intensive web session with really awesome people. So we've been jokingly calling it a learning espresso. So you can take a little sip of caffeine to help you move across the year. So we have sessions from Brenda Oberturf and her colleagues from Word Nerds and her new book, The Vocabularians. So they'll be talking about vocabulary. We have Jen Saravallo talking about her reading strategies book and some support around that. Mary Capolini celebrating the 10th anniversary of her English language learners book, Balancing Reading and Language Learning. She'll be joining us for a session. I'll talk about writing from sources. A bunch of our team members are partnering together to lead some sessions. Kristin Zemke, who's here tonight, will talk with Brian Sweeney about digital tools. Chad, who's here tonight, and Dana will talk about social justice and ways to implement that in your classroom. Christy and Laura will talk about play and mindset for making. And a whole bunch of us are sharing. And we'll end the year with poet and author Amy Ludwig van de Water, who will help us end our year with joy. So the study series, someone can win that tonight, but also anyone who's a member of the think tank will get to join that as well too. So I just wanted to share, before we move on, what these groups mean to us. One thing that we really believe in here at the Educator Collaborative is really rethinking the way that professional learning happens, especially online. Many of us have presented in webinars before. We've done some online learning, and anytime that we get to connect with other people is always really powerful. That said, one thing that we feel has kind of been missing sometimes from web work, whether it's a wiki that you're working on or a webinar that you're in, is your ability to really get to know the people that you're with. Because either you're in a webinar where you're just watching slides go by, which we do not believe in at all, or you're in a webinar where maybe you're with an ongoing chat, or you're kind of like seeing people's names but you don't really see their faces. And so what we're doing with the virtual think tanks, and it's something we started last year with our coaching think tanks and now are opening them up to teachers, administrators, and coaches, is we're building a community of learners that has both one of us as an expert leading your group, but also helps all of you connect and share your expertise as well. As you can see on your screen right now, we basically have kind of like one of our think tanks where it's me and a couple of friends here. And our think tanks last year and the ones that will be starting this year are really about that, where throughout the year you get to connect with people from across the country or around the world and really become a family. I'll share that on the last day of our coaching think tank last year, I think we all got a little misty. It was almost weird. Like we never met in person, but by the end we really felt like we were a family. I remember one person in particular was tearing up. I was kind of like, well, goodbye, everyone. So it really is a powerful way to not be in the same room, but connect with colleagues from across the U.S. and even from other countries to really learn and work together. What we're going to start with is a really quick, and Elizabeth will share with you, a really quick what are 4 big things to know about our virtual think tanks. And then we'll go through each one of those to help you understand them a little bit more. But here's Elizabeth with the big 4.
Hi everyone, this is Elizabeth speaking, and I am so honored and excited to be a part of this tonight and a part of the think tank world in general. And part of what I want to share about the think tanks is just how powerful the face-to-face time within the think tanks can be, and how much connection and collaboration you really can gain from it. So One of the things that I think is most important about this is that you do have such a professional community around you. I think so often, especially coaches and top educators and administrators say they feel very much like they live in a bubble or they live in a very isolated world. And there are so many others out there that you can learn with, talk to, connect with. And by the end of the year, there are people who share your struggles, celebrate your successes, and come together to really brainstorm and solve bigger problems together. So one thing I would say is that there's this professional community out there of people that you will get to know that live beyond the think tank sessions and live beyond the time together just in the Google Hangout world. They live together through Twitter. They live together through Voxer this next year, and it's a place to reach out to people. One of the most powerful things was when one of the participants in one of my think tank groups emailed the group just saying, hey, I just had this bomb dropped on me. I just had this huge project dropped in my lap. I need answers. I need ideas. And within 24 hours, there was an email chain a mile long of people brainstorming together and sharing resources and really sort of supporting each other through that. The next thing I would say is that together, and I guess I just sort of touched on that a little bit, is that it aims at problem solving and it aims at school growth. So it aims at whatever goals you've set for yourself this year in terms of how you personally want to grow, in terms of how your students are going to grow, in terms of how your teachers are going to go in their practice. Again, you're bringing a whole bunch of really talented people together, and together you're getting a chance to share problems and share solutions with each other. So part of what I think is powerful about this, I think the facilitators of the think tanks feel they've done their job best when they sit back and say nothing, and the members of the community really come together for each other and provide ideas and ways to move forward and ways to really grow together. I would also say that there is this element within the think tanks of really bringing forward effective and sort of cutting-edge ideas for ways to really improve instruction in the classroom. So all of us here at the Ed Collaborative bring years of experience from different layers, and we all work together. We share resources. We do research together, and we bring that forward to you. So articles, current research, best practices, videos, sharing student work, sharing lessons together so that people can really learn and grow. And it all is connected, again, to things that are going to move your students and move your school ahead. Finally, what I would say is that we are a group of people that really are available and really are excited to work and learn with you all. We have different ways that we all connect. We have different ways that we all work together. So in addition to the Google chat rooms, you will have follow-up emails, you'll have ways to hang out on Twitter, and this year you'll also have ways to talk together on an app that I am just learning how to use called Voxer, where you can actually speak to each other in a group chat setting. And again, it's a way to, in real time, get answers to problems, get encouragement when you need it, have people to share together and really feel connected to a larger community and connected to a larger group of learners.
Thanks, Elizabeth. So what we're going to do now as we're moving forward is to go back through each of those, like the big four, and to have you experience some of what our think tanks tend to feel like. So we'll invite you to use the hashtag the Ed Collab think tanks. You can see it right at the bottom of my name there. When you use the hashtag, that also is the way that you will enter for a free drawing. So that's the way that you'll get a free sweepstakes into winning one of our study series. So every time you tweet, you'll get that too. So we'll start with the first one that Elizabeth talked about, and that is having edu friends everywhere. So a couple of things to say about this. So if you'll notice at the bottom of the slide, we've also put some of the the stuff that can sometimes feel separated from the important work that we feel like we're trying to do in our classrooms, and that's things like the Danielson rubrics or the Marzano leadership rubrics, or even coaching standards, where there's sometimes where it feels like there's these evaluation tools that hopefully are in line with what we believe in, but sometimes can feel like this extra layer that's kind of floating on top of us. And one thing that we really want to do and that we strive to do in all of our work here at the Educator Collaborative is to help you take the good work you already believe in and the good work you're already doing and to connect that to what's happening around us. So as we move forward, I want to highlight just a couple of the things that you might already be asked to do that we're right alongside with you and can help you as you're working on them. So for this first one, part of, for example, the Danielson Domain 4 is about having a community of practice, about the ways that you work together inside of your school, but even ways that you work across our profession. And the same goes for the Marzano leadership domains, where it's an expectation that school leaders build cooperation and collaboration inside of the work that they do. And that's one big piece of how we lead all of our groups, both our internal think tanks here at the Ed Collab, but then also for those of you that are able to join us across the year. So we'd like to give you a little feel for what that feels like for us whenever we meet, but also invite you to share along with us. So you're going to get to hear us vent. Here we go, live on camera. But Elizabeth is going to lead us in our traditional beginning of highs and lows. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yep, I would say that one of the things about sharing out highs and lows is depending on the professional community and depending on how intense your focus is, highs and lows could be something as simple as celebrating something that's going well in your school, well in your work, or it could be something more tailored and focused to specific goals that you're working towards. So sharing out successes within a goal you're working towards and sharing out struggles along the way to that goal. So for today, what I would say is we're going to share out a high and low, and I'm going to let each member of the group decide whether they want to make it something specific to a goal that they're working towards or whether they want to make it more general to just highs and lows in the work that they're doing with their school. So again, it's how vulnerable do people want to be today in terms of expressing the highs and lows for their work. Who would like to start?
I can have a high, which doesn't happen every week, but here's the high this week. So my high is my kids have gone back to school. We live here in New York City, and so far so good. They've come home from first grade and third grade very happy. They've had smiles on their faces. They already have a bunch of work. They've been working in their rooms, reading and doing some writing this evening already. So that's one high that isn't always a high, that things are super good with the kiddos after school and they're very happy right now. So that's a high for me.
So Chris gave a great example of sharing a high from his personal life, but that's something that I think later could lead to bigger discussions around schooling and our children and how we really balance being an educator and having children in schools. So that's actually super helpful. Who would like to go next?
I'll go ahead and go next. Hi, everybody. I'm Kristin Zemke. Great to be here with you today, hanging out and talking think tanks. I think just really quickly before I share my high, like one of these experiences is a high for me on a regular basis. You know, getting the time to sit and collaborate with colleagues, having that pushback or that build upon in terms of, okay, I'm doing this in class. What would make it a little bit better? What would be the next step? What ideas do you guys have for this type of practice? I think that's a year-long goal for me, as well as a high, just getting a chance to sit here and hang out with my friends and talk with you guys tonight. What I was going to say about my high at school is that I was able to have some really fantastic book talks with kids this week, and all of that for me is this baseline interview piece where I have the opportunity to learn their interests and their motivations and their passions and start saying, okay, what do you want to learn more about this year? You know, what can I find for you? What can I match for you? And so just yesterday I found some fantastic do-it-yourself magazines at Home Depot that I purchased for some kids in my class that want to do some more maker projects. And so that was a high. And I think finding text in the places you sometimes don't expect is a good reflection piece for me as well.
So what's great about what Kristin shared is that not only is that an amazing thing that we all want to celebrate, but if we were in a typical think tank group, another teacher might say, how in the world did you do that? That sounds amazing.
I want to say that.
That sounds amazing. So it provides, it seems like something simple, that the first part of every think tank would be a way to connect with everyone around you, but it's opening up already things that we could learn from each other, because wow, thinking about going to Home Depot and turning it into a reading trip, that's one more way to torture my husband. That sounds amazing. So I'm going to start looking for books at Home Depot because it's just such a passionate thing to do.
And I'll bring in some of our friends from Twitter. Here's Stephanie, who's joining us this evening. She says that a goal that she has this year is to use digital a lot in the classroom more and really collaborate with experts. And we have Angela, who says another way to pay it forward, learning from, with, and learning to the teachers and administrators I work with, as she's thinking about what think tanks could mean for this year. And I'll take this as a high. Here's Class Concanon saying, Kristin, you're the best. You're the best. We agree. Awesome. So most of our think tanks begin in that way, where everyone has a chance to share. It's maybe 4 to 6 of us. It's usually a tiny little group on purpose. And people are able to share both what's going well, but also the stuff that's not going so well for them. And it's a chance to problem solve and connect with colleagues from across miles. With our coaching groups this last year, that was huge. One member said that they felt so alone in their own building, as coaches often can be. And just the ability to connect with others and to say, I'm having a terrible week, I don't know what to do, and have a bunch of other people say, I've been there, here's what you can do, feels really powerful. The other piece of it is, what I love about the think tanks is I'm on Twitter constantly, so I am always texting and communicating with people. But the think tank is kind of this like sacred space. It's this little time that you know who you're going to see, you're face-to-face talking, and it really feels like it's a place where I expect that I can bring stuff that I'm proud of or stuff that I need to work on. So our think tanks begin in that way, and then typically we move towards some inquiry. We prefer to not just have you sit and listen. In fact, we can't stand that. Instead, we like to engage in some sort of inquiry together and then move to some teaching. So when we're thinking about growing smarter together in that way, those of you that might be working in, for example, Danielson Domain 2 on classroom environment, the ways that your kids interact, the collaboration amongst them, or if you're a school leader working on Marzano Domain 5, like trying to build a climate inside of your building, or if you're a coach using the literacy coaching standards from NCTE and ILA and the Carnegie Corporation, and you're thinking about really being able to evaluate literacy needs well, a large part of that, it comes through inquiry. It comes through really studying something together and talking about it. So to give you a preview of what one inquiry in a study or in a think tank might feel like, we'll turn it over to our friend Catherine Hale. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here, and I wanted to just quickly share a very small version of what it would look like in a real think tank. So Kristin Zemke and I are going to be doing an awesome think tank, just really focusing on cutting-edge ways of using digital tools to magnify and change the game for what literacy looks like in your classrooms and for your students. And so I wanted to share with you an example. So I always like to think about, a real challenge that teachers might have in the classrooms. And one of those challenges that you always hear is that we just don't have enough time, and it's so difficult for us to be able to meet every kid's need in reading. As you guys know, even though 2 students might be reading the same book, they both have 2 different needs as readers, and we want to make sure we teach specific lessons that personalize to their reading level or where they're at. And so what I've realized is I wanted to find a way using digital tools to meet every student's needs, but at the same time empower them as teachers and make them feel like they're not just receiving information, but they're giving information to a wider classroom, a global classroom. So what I ended up doing is that I taught students basically the structure of a mini lesson that a teacher would teach. And I had them create a goal for themselves of what was one reading skill they had a really difficult time with. So for example, one of my students, he says that one of his reading areas that was hard for him was figuring out unknown words or vocabulary words when he's reading fiction or nonfiction. And so that was his goal. And every student had that goal, and I had them create a lesson on a video. So they recorded a lesson using a specific strategy that they created or came up with, or with help from me that they realized would help them resolve their challenge. And then all of these lessons and videos that they all created were put together into a course on iTunes U. And now this course is able to be shared with students across the country, globally in another country, and so my students feel like they are not just learners, but that they have already contributed and teach reading skills to students their age all over the world. So I wanted to show you an example of a student and the video that they created. So what we're doing here is that we're learning a specific practical strategy we can bring back to the classroom, but also learning it through inquiry. And so I'm going to play this video, and I want you to look carefully and listen carefully to notice what things does Francis say and what things does he do that might hint that he's reached his goal. So remember, his goal is that he wants to become a stronger reader that can figure out unknown words when he comes across a word that he doesn't know. So I'm going to go ahead and share this video. And let me go ahead and hit play.
Hi readers, so today I'm going to show you how to find vocabulary words that you don't know by skip, replace, and return. So I took two sentences from one article called Oldest in the World. The article is about someone that's the oldest in the world. So now we will read the first sentence, and I have the vocabulary words written in red so they stand out. So Okawa celebrated the milestone at her home in Osaka, Japan. So you gotta find out what milestone means. So let's use skip, replace, return. So first, skip. Okawa celebrated the blank at her home in Osaka, Japan. Replace. So what do you think milestone means? So it's celebration. Celebration of what? Probably an event. So try event. Now return. So Okawa celebrated the event at her home in Osaka, Japan. So event works. So now we know that milestone means event. So I have this sentence on here. The record holder said a good diet and plenty of sleep has helped her live so long. So I want you to do that and post what you think diet means on the discussion.
Okay, so just like what Francis said, I'm going to stop that video, and hopefully you noticed that when he was making that video, that he was not only able to figure out an unknown word, but articulate it so well that he could teach somebody how to do it themselves. And he didn't just say, okay, so I was able to figure out an unknown word. He was able to tell you a specific strategy he used to figure out that unknown word. And so for him, he was talking about skipping, replacing, and then returning. So this is just one small example, and we would go much more in depth in a real think tank of really digging deep into a video like that and seeing how we could use digital tools and how we could have a student create a video and then become a course online that would not only teach others, but benefit that specific student and help them grow as a reader. So I'm going to give it back to Chris.
So maybe we could do a little inquiry here ourselves, and so we could invite those of you on Twitter, and we could too. Catherine shared that video with us and set up that some of what she taught him, he was trying to show back to us, like what a mini lesson looks like, what he knows about reading. So I'll invite my friends down here, or those of you that are out in cyberspace, you can use hashtag the Collab Gathering. Could you share what are some things that you, or Catherine, you could fix this question if you want, but what are some things that you noticed that you've learned about not just that reader that we just watched, but that you learned about the classroom that that reader came from? So I'll turn it over to our friends, or to Twitterland too.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in there because I think what I just see there is so much of, you know, Glasser's work and this whole idea of what we see, what we hear, what we do, and the opportunity to remember percentages. Of course, we know like the highest opportunity for kids to use and build and craft knowledge is when they have the opportunity to reteach it. And whereas in a typical classroom of 25 to 30 kids, sometimes it's hard to give every child face-to-face time to teach and to interact. But I think when we use this power of video to capture student thinking and then put it out there for the real world, that just amplifies. And so I'm so excited for your students that they get to do that, and it's a great model, I think, for everyone to employ.
Right off of what you just said, Kristin, here's Kirsten, or Kristin Jones, who's joining us from Twitter, and she said, OMG, Donors Choose, we love Donors Choose. Donors Choose just sent them some new cameras, and they love the idea of she loves the idea of student-created mini lessons. So the power of the think tank. Now Catherine's work is now going to infiltrate EMHS Jones's work. And thank you, Kristin, for joining us this evening. Others, or Twitterland, what are some things that you've learned about this reader, or that you've learned about this classroom?
I'll jump in right there. Like, one of the things I love is that it's obvious that in that classroom he's been empowered, just to sort of piggyback on what Kristin was talking about, that one of the things is that for some of those students, as they think about what they may see as a weakness, like, I don't know these words, Mr. Everett, but then we turn around and flip that, well, now you're teaching. So it's one of those things where now what that student may have seen as a weakness is now it's become that student's strength, to the point where they're able to work with their classmates. So I think it's great anytime as educators we can empower our students, and also as we think about who's doing the lifting in the classroom, just being really honest that now if another student has a problem, when they run into that problem, when they don't know a word, there's that other teacher, if you will, in the classroom that they can now go to, sort of our little local expert. So it's always great to empower students in that way.
Yeah, I agree. I love your point, because I think that's so powerful, that it was in that classroom, a weakness isn't a weakness. It's like a weakness is something that we work on, we get better at, and then we can even share. So yeah, totally awesome.
Yeah, Chris, one thing that I was really impressed with about it, and if this were a think tank where we actually had the full time, I would want to dive into a little bit more. I was impressed with what a great lesson it actually was. So this student clearly, and I would want to talk more about how do you teach students to be such good teachers. Like, he didn't just make his point, he then had an example for the other students to try, and that to me was really powerful, because it showed not only just that he had learned the concept, but that he was being a very thoughtful teacher about that concept. And so that would be something I noticed and really would want to dig into more, is not only creating great students and learners, but how do you turn the students into such great teachers? So that was something I was really struck by.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the right. You said the right point, that in a think tank, that was just a snippet, but being able to know really like the process of how a student gets to that point is so powerful, to be able to use a think tank to break that down and then decide, like, how does this work step by step practically in the classroom. So what you guys don't see in that video is the fact that I had been flipping some reading lessons for the students in this same model, and then when I taught them, I broke down every single I guess section of the mini lesson structure, and by the time that they were able to do it themselves, they've already had so many mentor videos, I guess you could call them, of me teaching that. And I had anchor charts that they could refer to of step by step. They practiced each part each day. And so it didn't seem like a huge project. And that by after the 5th day, they had magically a wonderful mini lesson that was so powerful. And one thing I also wanted to add, if you notice at the end of that lesson, is that the student wrapped it up by saying, like, you know, okay, I want you to try and apply it. And when you can do that on the on an iTunes U course like we did, what allowed other viewers or learners to do is that they were able to respond either on Padlet or in iTunes U. And my students were actually able to see other students or other readers' responses and almost assess if they were accomplished that reading strategy or if their lesson was effective or not. So it's just, there's so many levels to it that in a longer think tank, we'd really be able to dive deep into that.
So if you're feeling like I'm feeling, although I have to say I feel lucky that I get to hang out with Catherine, but if you're feeling like I'm feeling where you're like, oh my God, this is amazing, say more, say more, just know that Catherine and Kristin are leading together 2 think tanks. One is for teachers and one is for coaches, where they'll be working through some of this. But every time we get together, my mind is blown, and what I love about these think tanks that we put together is I get to share the people that I find awesome with all of you in a format like this. So I'm just, thank you, I'm so excited. So I wanted to share a couple of tweets from people that also were sharing some joy on Twitter too. Here's Laura. Hi Laura. Laura from NCTE. Laura says what she sees in that video is evidence of student goal setting and awareness of what he knows. Definitely empowered. Stephanie saying what a powerful tool to use in the classroom to encourage the learner and the teacher. And those of you that are watching along, I just wanted to remind you that you can, as I flip my screen here we go, that you can win a free study series. And the study series is those like a quick espresso little 90-minute workshops from amazing people like Brenda Overturf, Jen Saravallo, me, everyone in our Educator Collaborative, all of us coming together to do a couple sessions across the year. And so the way that you'll win that tonight is during this hour. A bunch of you have been doing it already. If you use hashtag the EdCollab Think Tanks, then as you tweet, every time you tweet, that counts as one entry, and after tonight we'll choose a random drawing winner from tweets during this hour. So you could respond to our prompts like a bunch of you have been doing, or you can just respond to the question, what goals would professional collaboration through a virtual think tank help you meet this school year? And as an example of that, here's Angela, that moment when you realize how much more you have to learn, simultaneously overwhelming and invigorating, and then she says, pick me. You're in the draw with that, Angela, great job. As our think tanks move, and our sessions happen across the year, the same cohort of people, so you really get to learn and grow together as the year progresses. During a typical think tank, just as we did this evening, we start with some like highs and lows, what's happening for you now, and you can get feedback from your group or just to like, hooray! Then we usually have some inquiry time where your group leader or sometimes a member of your group brings student work or brings a classroom problem of practice or brings something to the group that we can share and study together. And then we typically move into some teaching time, and that could come from your group leader or from, again, another member of your group. And so during the teaching practice, really our largest focus during that time is really on instruction. So if you're thinking about all the domains that hit that, so whether it's Danielson 3 or Marzano 2 or whatever measurement tool your particular state is using, instruction holds a large place in our classroom. And so we like to make sure that every one of our think tank meetings you leave with a bunch of practical ideas that you could go ahead and do right away tomorrow. We'll have our friend Kristin Zemke, who's going to do a brief little preview of what teaching during the think tank might feel like. And one thing to highlight, which Kristin is so awesome with anyway, but one thing that you'll notice is that our teaching, we really strive for, and it's something that we practice internally, isn't just about us telling you a bunch of things. Instead, we really aim for it to be interactive and hands-on and collaborative. So Kristin's going to share something with us, and then you'll also have the opportunity to collaborate in a project as well. So, Kristin?
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. You know, it's so exciting to hear what Catherine's talking about and to start thinking about our highs and lows and what's laying ahead for the course of the year with some of these think tanks. One of the pieces that we're really big on is this idea of finding tools that you can implement tomorrow. As educators, we know it's got to work, right? As teachers, if it's not a tried and true practice, then we abandon it. And so our work here is grounded in real practical strategies that we can use right away. Catherine and my think tank is on digital literacy, and so we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And I'm going to share one of my favorite lessons to do with students. And so let me get my screen shared here with you. There we go. And I'm just going to show you a couple examples. One of the pieces that Catherine talked about with her student doing such a great job at that mentoring piece with the video instruction was this idea of digital mentor texts. And we know that mentor texts work in reading, writing, and inquiry workshops. We need to apply the same model of mentor text to all that we do digitally and really start wrapping or origamiing in this piece of visual literacy as well as media literacy. And so in our school, and Katie Mutaris, my writing partner, and I have both written quite a bit about this, but taken the idea of the book shelfie, right? Embracing the pop culture of selfies and pairing it with our favorite right now books, and then creating these visual book reviews that students can view to gain information, right? There's no text to decode. Everyone can look at photos of their classmates and say, whoa, this looks like a great book. You know, so-and-so is recommending this. I might go check it out. This is a great activity for the beginning of the year as we invite students to start to learn a little bit more about our classroom library, to know titles and texts that might be a good fit for them. And so just quickly snapping a couple book shelfies with students to build upon that. We then take these book shelfies and go a little bit more public with them. Not only do we print many of these photos out and hang on a classroom bulletin board, but we also archive and save them on some type of digital bulletin board. This became a great practice for students in our class this past year, and so we aligned with many of the social media practices of it's Monday, what are you reading? And during reading workshop, kids would swing by an iPad or a computer, take a book shelfie, and post that to our shared classroom reading wall. For me as the teacher, this became a type of status of the class, and as we went about and used some of these tools and practices, we opened it up to a global It's Monday, What Are You Reading wall. And so each month students from around the world would post their right now titles to our classroom reading wall. You can see here a couple of Catherine's students as well as our network of teachers and learners from not only around the country but around the globe sharing some of their right now titles. And so what this did for students was that it gave them an opportunity to share and to think. It also gave an opportunity to learn new titles and texts from their peers. And so here one of the girls in 3rd grade heard about a couple of Ruby Bridges books that she wanted to explore a little bit more. And so finding ways for kids to take photos of their right now favorite titles and then to archive it on some type of tool like a Padlet wall is a quick and easy practice that you can try and implement tomorrow. And so I'm going to show you how to do that really quickly right now. And please, if you're joining us online, take a second and log on to this website right here. You can see the URL highlighted in blue is just padlet.com/KZemke/EdCollab, today's date. And what's a great thing about Padlet is that once you go to the website padlet.com, you can click the Create Something button, and immediately your wall is ready to go. And so if I double-click or double-tap anywhere on the wall, it will give me the opportunity to post a sticky note. And so you can see Catherine here has posted a little bit about some of her right now titles. I posted earlier one of my favorite books from last year, So Electric. It's a handy dandy do-it-yourself project keeper of ideas that you can use with electronics and programming. So you can see Chris is sharing some of his titles, but what we can do is take this idea of bookshelfies and recommend titles for kids and then share them beyond the walls of our classroom. And so anyone who I share this URL with will be able to access this Padlet wall. And so we build this energy and this excitement. Donaldin Miller calls it a reading frenzy, this idea where kids want to share, where they want to have a voice and do a little bit of the work. Another thing that I really love about Padlet is that when you double click on the wall, it gives an option to take a photo. You can see that right here under my little cursor there. And so if I click take a photo on either an iPad or a computer, you can capture live right here on your Padlet wall. So let me show you this little note that I found. Check this out. In my hotel room, and we were talking a little bit ago about, you know, the Ed Collab think tanks being that opportunity to have a phone your friend experience. And so I found this little card that shared how to, you know, go about and phone a friend. And so I think there's so many great tools that we can use to really get kids excited to share not only books, but think about classroom resources, creating a web page link of high-quality tools for kids, powerful search engines that we want to use. And so Padlet is one of those great tools, visual and media literacy, all wrapped into one. And so we're going to be talking a little bit more about that in our think tank later this year. But I'm going to bump it back to Chris to talk just a bit about maybe what these think tanks hold and encompass.
And as you were talking, here's Larry, who's joining us this evening, that says, love the collaboration and global appeal to digital bulletin boards, different ways to get kids talking about their books. And I, for sure, I mean, I love learning from Kristin, just the way that her kids, as they started that Padlet, it just became this like growing thing where different classrooms were all connected together. Classicon Cannon says, bookshelfies with QR codes, big thumbs up. I'm inferring that the exclamation point meant a big thumbs up. Those of you that are joining us, I see some are just joining on now. Just a reminder that during this hour, if you tweet using hashtag the Ed Collab Think Tanks, and you could either respond to something we're talking about or just say anything you want to say, or share a response to what goals would professional collaboration through a virtual think tank help you meet the school year, we'll choose one of you to win a study series subscription. So the study series, again, is our, they aren't the think tanks. Instead, members of think tanks have access to the study series, or you can just join the study series by itself. And the study series are 90-minute sessions about once or twice a month from awesome, amazing people like those that you see on your screen. So tweet away. You also perhaps, not that I'm giving you this idea, but if you have a friend with you that tweets too, then you have two people that could possibly win, and they can decide who gets the study series. So as we're thinking about our year-long think tanks and the ways that small groups like this work together in this structure for us, we generally begin with some way of connecting with one another. Then we move into an inquiry. Then we move towards some hands-on learning. And just to say as an aside, all the members of the Educator Collaborative also do in-person professional development. We consult in schools, we do speaking engagements, and this structure is something that we really value in our face-to-face work, just like in our digital work too. And that's why we've created the think tanks in this way, is that we think it's much more powerful to bring our expertise to a school, for example, but to have that school members really share their expertise too. And so connecting having an inquiry, and then studying something together is the way we generally work, and so we wanted to try to replicate that in an online environment as well. So the last piece of this is that we want to stay connected. Our think tanks, and I'll talk about them at the very end here, our think tanks generally meet several times across the year, but that's just the times that they meet. So what we're going to be doing this next year is everyone who's in a think tank group, so the like 5 of you that will get to study along Catherine and Kristin, the 6 of you that'll be with Elizabeth, whatever group you're in, you'll also become a member of a Voxer chat. And so that Voxer chat, for those of you that know Voxer, you probably adore it. If you don't know it, it's just like a way that you can talk on the phone with all your friends. In fact, if I pull this up here, as we were planning for today, don't hate me for this, guys. As we were planning for it today, we were all on a Voxer chat together because we're not all in the same place. We're not able to all see each other, but we can stay connected. So at any point, I can leave a message and say, hey, guys, I don't know what to do with this part. And then I have brilliant Catherine saying, maybe try this. And then Chad says, well, maybe it could go this way. And so we're able to stay connected the whole time. So for example, we shared photos just before we went live of what our setup looks like at home. So Catherine has Kristin has her computer on 2 Kleenex boxes, and mine is now on a box of books. So that's the inside scoop, guys. But Voxer is a way that we basically can have all of our Ed Collab friends on speed dial. And I also think about it this way. You get to have your group, but then you have, for example, if you're a member of Christy Maratz's group on early grade students and how to support K1 students in play and passion, you can pick up your phone, press a button, and then you have Christy Maratz there to help you out. So it's kind of like having your friend on speed dial. And really, all of the work that we do at the Educator Collaborative is about our name, collaboration. Our motto is collaboration creates opportunity, and we believe that that's true for our kids, for our schools, and for each other. So Chad's going to share some thoughts and some preview on what it feels like to collaborate and what that means to us here at the Ed Collab. Hey, Chad.
Hey, thanks, Chris. So if everyone out there that's watching is like me, you're feeling like you felt earlier, Chris, we're excited just to get together and collaborate tonight. And one of the things that we realized earlier walking through Catherine's example that she shared with that video is that we're better together. And I think that that's one of the things that at the Educator Collaborative and then all of us individually that we value and recognize is that we're better together. It's so easy sometimes to feel isolated in our buildings or maybe at central office where you feel, I'm the only one that's dealing with this. No one else is, and I'm tired and I'm worn out. And I just need someone to talk to, or I need someone to problem solve with. Or I just need somebody to sit there and listen to me go on for a little while. And I think that's one of the things that's so awesome about the think tanks and the study series is that not only do you have an expert there, you have people that ultimately they're your peers, but they become your friends. And so not only throughout the think tanks, but for the rest of your life, those become your professional peers that you can go to. It's just, I just need you to listen to me. Or I taught this lesson today and it's fallen flat. Or it fell flat. Can you help me out with that? And I think it's so awesome to think like, I've got Chris Lehman in my pocket. Like I can take it out and be like, hey, Chris, can you help me with this? That's awesome. And something Kristin said earlier about the bookshelfies where they took it to a much larger audience is that students got to share, think, and learn with their peers. And I think that's at the core of what we want to do as professionals is share, think, and learn together. So I think that's those are some of the most important things or things that come to mind when I think about collaboration and what the think tanks and the study series offer. Plus, one of the things I love is that I can go to a major conference and all of us we sit in the back of the room and it's like, hey, I think maybe Chris may have looked at me at the back of the room. Like I'm sure when he was going over that slide, he nodded in my direction. And now it's really awesome to think about I get to move into this much smaller setting and sort of get that one-on-one time that I'd love to have at conferences because one of the things, the big session is awesome, but it's those small conversations that we have outside the session as we're going in or as we're waiting on the session to start. So the think tanks and the study series is sort of like getting to have those small conversations throughout the year.
Thank you, Chad. I mean, I have to say that when I see you, I'm also like, oh my God, that's Chad. He's right there. So thank you for the shout out. And just to share, the power of connecting, whether it's with think tanks or anywhere, because I mean it's not unique to us that and to our think tanks that collaboration is powerful and important. There's people doing this on Twitter, NCLE, there's groups, you know, you just have conversations with your colleagues. We just see the think tanks as another form of doing that in kind of a unique structure, a way that you can really be face-to-face with who will become your brand new friends. So an example of that is here's Leah, who says, the bookshelfie, this must be shared immediately, emailing grade level PLCs now. and that really honestly is what happens a lot in our think tanks. Is this past year, my coaching think tank was on close reading grades K to 2 and supporting literacy coaches and implementing close reading in the primary grades. I'm this next year going to lead a group for K to 2 teachers or anyone else who wants to join, but really specifically aimed towards people who are you know, in the classroom with kids, and we'll also be working on K to 2 close reading. And one thing that happened last year is that we would all be together. Someone would, just like tonight, would come up with something, and the whole group of us, myself included, would go, oh, and we'd have to like write it down really fast, and then that became our work during that next week. So I love when moments like that happen. So to end here, I'd like to just share with you a little bit about these structures, how you can become involved in them. And then if you stick around to the very end, there's one more announcement, teaser. It's only 6 minutes away. You can do it. So here we go. First of all, if you found us talking about these big 4 areas helpful, or connecting them to Danielson domains or Marzano domains. So for example, if you're someone who is approaching an administrator because you're interested in joining one of these groups, but you're not sure how to talk about it, or if you are an administrator and you're trying to figure out how will the board approve this, just know many people have done it before you, but we've also created this handy little guide that we talked off of tonight. So if you visit our think tanks page, the URL's right there, theeducatorcollaborative.com/thinktanks, you'll see right on the main page, you can click on the image itself, and you have this guide behind it. So the pages behind it are the entire information about think tanks and study series. So you can see all of the available groups, all the cool people that you could study with this year. So what we did tonight is available in paper form for you. So here are some things that you could think about. One of you tonight will win the study series. If you don't win, or if you like it so much that you want to share it with your friends, the study series are the interactive webinars. They aren't the think tank, so they're not what we're doing tonight. However, they're like Jen Saravallo talking to you for 90 minutes, and you get to chat with her. So for the study series, there's, I want to say it's maybe about 15 sessions across the year, about 1 to 2 a month. I think one month might have 3. The fee for those is $385 for the year, so that's about $45 a month. So think about it as like a coffee each day. If it's a Starbucks coffee, you could buy 2. But so it's $385 for the month. Registration for those opens August 5th. So if you're interested in signing yourself up or others up, August 5th is the day that those open. If you're a member of a virtual think tank, you automatically join the study series for free, and that's why the October 5th starting point will happen, because the study series closed just before that. I mean, excuse me, the think tanks closed just before that. So everyone who's a member of a think tank automatically is a member of the study series, and then the study series is open. Any available seats are open to everyone else. Then for the think tanks, if you would like to study with me or Catherine and Kristin, or Christy Moratz, Heather Rocco, Roslinder, all the other awesome people in our group, we have 2 types of think tanks. One is teacher think tanks. The teacher think tanks meet a little bit shorter than the administrator think tanks, so that it can fit into your school day, or it can fit between grading. My wife is at her open school night tonight with all of her students' parents, so I know what it's like to have her grade book open. So the teacher think tanks are a little bit shorter so that you can get more stuff done around them. But those meet across the year. There's 5 virtual sessions with me or with Kristin or with others, plus the study series, plus you get to join us over Voxer. We also have groups that we're continuing from last year, and they were it felt very successful to us. We really enjoyed them. And those are our coaching and administrator think tanks. Those, the fee is higher because they meet for a longer time and they meet a little bit more often. And the ways to think about this is the teacher think tanks are really built around content, like helping you to study something. So another one of my teacher think tanks that I'll be leading is on nonfiction reading and trying to get a handle on that. Or Elizabeth is leading one on questioning and really how you can help your students get engaged in a great conversation. And so the teacher think tanks are really about content, like studying what we say to students, what we teach to students, what our instruction looks like. The coaching and administrator think tanks are both about content and leadership. So for those, so for example, Heather Rocco will be leading our administrator think tank. So administrators from across the country will join together with Heather for several times across the year, or we have some coaching groups going on too. The coaching and administrator think tanks are both teaching you something, but also helping you reflect on and work on your leadership. So we work on ways that coaches can structure their schedules, ways that coaches can work in classrooms and some options for that. Plus, just to say it, like you saw earlier, it's just a nice time to vent. So it's a great time for any of us to come together. The teacher groups, we tend to come together and say, oh, this kid drove me nuts today, and then we talk, and coaches and administrators are like, everyone's driving me crazy. And so it's a way that you can really see that your struggle is a shared struggle, but also that your hopes and dreams and goals are ones that you can share with others too. So you can find more information about all of those at our website, theeducatorcollaborative.com. So to end, well, then we'll end with some important words, but just to end, we have one more way to win a study series subscription. So for those of you that have tweeted this evening, in the next day or two, we'll randomly select one of you and we'll contact you to let you know that you won. But guess what? There's another way, because we know some of you came in late, or maybe you didn't get to tweet as much as you wanted. Basically what we're asking is for you to help us just spread the word, because honestly these think tanks are more fun together. When we're with a group of like-minded awesome people, it just really means a lot. So we're reaching out to you to ask you to help us reach out to all of your friends so you can help people connect to these think tanks. So to help us do that, one more way to enter. If you use the hashtag #TheEdCollabThinkTanks anytime between now and midnight on September 20th, you can say whatever you want about the think tanks. So for example, you could say, what are you looking forward to in the think tanks? But anything that you share, that tweet will become an entry. You can tweet as many times as you'd like, and it'll be that many entries. And then we'll choose another winner from those. So before we go, first, this Saturday is our Collab Gathering. It's a free day of learning from these amazing people that you see below here and lots of other awesome people. Penny Kittle will be our keynote. The day starts at 9:45. It goes until 4 o'clock. However, it's all streaming live and archived. So if you can only pop in at noon, pick a session. There's some hours of the day. There's 5 sessions to choose from. Some there's 4. They go from grades K to 12, lots of amazing topics. So you can check out gathering.theeducatorcollaborative.com. You'll see the full agenda there. And you're all welcome to join, and it's free, and you don't have to register. So you're welcome to join that. Then I just would like to end with this thought. The people that I see below here are my friends, and they became my friends not just because they're awesome people, but because we connect often. And they're people that I turn to when I feel like I just can't do this anymore. I think we all get to that point where you've traveled too much, or you've had too much work, you've had too many phone calls, or your students are driving you crazy, or the person down the hall, or whatever it is. I think we all have that point during the year where we just question, is education right for me? Should I be working at Starbucks right now? And having these incredible people in my life keep me going. When I feel awful and I can hear Catherine say, so here's something I tried and it just blows your mind amazing, it makes me want to keep going. And so whether you collaborate with us here in our virtual think tanks, or you join us in our study series, or you don't join any of that and you just connect on Twitter with friends, or you talk with your colleagues, the ability to connect with others is really our life force. It's the thing that keeps us going. We need you in this profession. We need you to do your magical work that you came into this profession to do. And one way to keep that magic going is to connect with people that inspire you and people that you love. So thank you all for joining us this evening, or in the future because you're watching the archive. But thank you for all that you do. We hope to see you this year in any one of our offerings or just to catch you online. If you have any questions, please feel free to tweet us at the Ed Collab, or you can email us from our website. But thank you for all that you do. Thank you guys for joining me this evening too. You rock my world, and I'm so privileged to know you. So thank you all. Have a terrific evening.